To me, Dave Batholomew is the greatest. There's no doubt about it.
There's a lot of reflection on this day with the passing of one of the trailblazers in New Orleans music, Dave Batholomew.
Those big horn sections, the drum, the accent, you know, the dynamics that he wrote with.
Batholomew worked with Reggie Toussaint's dad, Alan Toussaint.
He said, now you see all of this here? Now that's Fats. But you hear all that over there going on behind Fats? That's Dave.
He was best known for his longtime collaboration with Fats Domino as a songwriter and producer.
Although as great as Fats, I don't know for sure if there would have been Fats without Dave, and I don't know if there would have been a Dave without Fats. That marriage is one of the greatest marriages in musical history.
He was the guy that basically discovered him and shaped all of those Fats Domino hits.
He helped pave the way for musicians.
He was our trailblazer in New Orleans.
Including Deacon John.
Fatherly advice, business advice. He was the guy that I look up to like he was my father. And he paved the way for me.
It's a lot of music, a lot of legacy.
His passing is just another sign that that sort of golden age of New Orleans music is passing into the history books.
As the music industry says goodbye to the Grammy-winning trumpet player, Dave Batholomew will forever remain in history for developing the New Orleans sound and as a father of rock and roll. In New Orleans, Erica Ferrando, Eyewitness News.
And Batholomew is survived by his wife, 8 children, and several grandchildren. No word yet on funeral arrangements. Eric Paulson will share more memories as well as talk to Dave Bartholomew's son live tomorrow on the Eyewitness Morning News.